We can edit that out. We can edit that out. Hey. We can edit that out.
Is it? Are we rolling?
No, it's
And we're back.
Yeah, this is welcome back to We Can Edit That Out, your friendly neighborhood podcast.
Yeah, season 2, episode 7.
7? It is 7. Shit! Wow, we're rolling through it. We're almost like professionals now.
Yeah.
Except without getting paid. Can you still call somebody a professional if they're not getting paid for it?
No.
Okay.
I think that's actually the literal definition of professional.
So we're totally like amateurs.
Yeah, we're totally amateur.
But I don't feel like an amateur. We've done this enough.
No, I feel like we're seasoned amateurs.
Seasoned amateurs. We're experienced amateurs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm Jack, by the way.
This is Rob.
All right. Coming at you straight out of Lower East Side, Berlin.
Yeah, Berlin Rock City.
Berlin Rock City.
2023, coming at you from Friedrichshain, Boxhagener Platz, Party Central.
Yeah. What's your DJ name?
It kind of fluctuated. I guess I went by Annihilation Time for a while. That's also my Instagram handle.
Oh, nice plug there.
No, this is what it was.
Follow me on Instagram.
It was the dumbest pun I could come up with my name that had like a connection to punk. So that's what it is. What was your DJ name?
DJ Jackopolis. Because Opolis is the suffix for city. Mm-hmm. And I thought that'd be cool if somebody named a city after me someday. But, that'll never happen.
It kind of sounds like Jack Offable. Off on
I
police.
know, and I've heard that before, but yeah, it's just a suffix.
We should DJ sometime.
We should.
It'd be fun.
Yeah, but I don't have all my records here. I never wanted to be a cell phone DJ.
Yeah.
It's kind of weak. But
Yeah.
it's done. No offense to anybody who does that. That's all well and good.
I think it's better to DJ with vinyl.
Yeah, it just is.
It depends on the music, though. If you're making techno, it doesn't really.
Yeah. You can DJ with a computer. That's all well and good. But punk records have to be records.
Yeah, I think so.
Records have to be records.
Records have to be records. Good stance, Jack.
Yeah. I'm gonna die on that hill. So we were talking a while ago about doing some like informative stuff with the podcast. That since we are a couple guys that used to live in Seattle and we live in Berlin now, some of our experiences living in Berlin, and one of my things that I think is great here is learning the language.
Yeah, how's learning German go for you?
Anyway, but sometimes when I learn a word, it makes me laugh a little bit. And I'm not laughing at the language, I'm laughing with the language because German is very expressive. Like, for instance, the word Handschuhe, maybe I said that right, is the German word for gloves. Mm-hmm. But it's literally the shoes that you put on your hand.
Yeah.
That's amazing to me. But they don't have like socks are not called foot gloves, which just
it's true.
Boggles my imagination right there.
Yeah.
But you were telling me earlier that you have a favorite one that it makes no sense to me. So I'd like you to explain that to me if you can.
Well, the crazy thing about German, it's like a super modular language. So you can take stems and pieces of other words and link them together like Legos or something and make like a compound word.
Right.
So
what I did with Jackopolis.
Yeah.
Bring it back.
One of the words I learned actually when I was in the process of getting this flat was Mietschuldenfreiheitsbescheinigung.
All right.
And Mietschuldenfreiheitsbescheinigung is the document that you get from your landlord that basically says that you don't owe any debt on your rent. So when you're applying for a new flat, you have to get your current landlord to write a document out that says that you don't own any money. So it's Miet, which is rent, Schulden, which is like guilt or responsibility. It kind of has like a double meaning there. Freiheits, it means freedom. And then Bescheinigung, which is like a proof. So it's rent, guilt, freedom, proof.
So you're proof that you're guilt-free of rent.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. This episode, last episode, we said this episode was going to be an episode about Kyle. And segueing from the German language into Kyle, maybe English speakers don't know this, but there are 2 words in German for no. There's nein and there's kein. And maybe Rob will be so gracious as to explain the difference between the 2, and I'll fill in the blanks.
Sure. So when you say nein as a response to somebody, it's like you're basically just saying the word no. But if somebody asks you for something, or you're specifying that you don't want something, then you use the word kein. So, for example, anyone that knows me knows that I have this weird gene that makes cilantro or coriander, to our German friends, it tastes like soap to me. And I can use it in certain foods, but I prefer not to have it. So when I'm ordering food, particularly at like a Vietnamese place here, I will specify kein Koriander bitte, which means like, please, if it's possible, no cilantro in the food.
Mm-hmm. But most English speakers only know the German word nein for no. And that's something that is pretty general knowledge, I think, just from like watching, I don't know, Hogan's Heroes and Schindler's
I was just
List
about to say Hogan's Heroes.
Stuff like that. But I mean that dates us as very old people. But our friend Kyle, he did not grasp the concept that there were 2 different words for no. But he knew that Fleisch meant meat, which is pretty easy for us to wrap our heads around because Fleisch is like flesh. Mm-hmm. So as the vegetarian he would go into a restaurant and he would try and order a dish without meat, but he would say, Nein Fleisch. So what the server was, the Kellner in German, what the server is hearing is, no, meat. So he's looking at him like, okay, you don't have to yell at me.
Yeah, I'll get you some meat, buddy.
Bring you some meat. So he'd get his dish. We're like, what the fuck? There's meat in this. I specifically told him Nein Fleisch. And as many times, and I remember because you were there on this trip, and as many times as you tried to explain it to him, you're like, no. When you're specifying something, no something, when there's another word in front of no, then it's kein.
Yeah.
You know? But he just could not wrap his head around that. So, Nein Fleisch! Dude, okay.
Okay, I'll get you some meat.
Get some meat. So,
get you all the meat you want. Just stop yelling at me.
But the funny thing is even till the end, we had a conversation on his couch one time when he was like, well, I know one thing how to say in German. It's no meat. Nein Fleisch. And I'm like, wow, you still really never got that concept, did you? You know, that... and I tried to explain it to him, and he just does the classic Kyle catchphrase, which I already used, which is, I've heard it both ways.
It's like, no, you didn't, bro.
And I still use that catchphrase to this day all the time. I mean, because for trying to learn German, it's a good get out of jail free card when somebody says that's not how it's pronounced. I just go, well, I've heard it both ways. Yeah. no, you haven't.
In certain regions of Germany, that's how it's pronounced.
Right? It's amazing. But Kyle was one of those people that could just take anything and make it amazing.
Yeah,
you know, he did.
It was kind of like anytime he was around, things became either funnier or more dangerous or a combination of the two. Mm-hmm. He just sort of had a way about him that just sort of invited chaos and craziness. And yeah, just he was a magnet for that stuff. Mm-hmm. I have a really funny side story also relating to food. On that trip. So Kyle Brandon and I took a flight on US Airways to Europe in 2001 to go on this trip. And this was actually like right after 9/11, I think. we had our flight delayed like a day or something because we were actually supposed to fly out on September 12th originally or something like that. There was some like weird...
Right, that was 2001.
There was some weird like 9/11 shit going on.
Right.
But anyways, we get on the flight and we're in a row of 4 seats that's like in the middle, right? And Brandon and I are on one side and Kyle is on the other 2. Like we had like a gap in between us or something. So what was happening was Kyle was like getting served from both sides of the food service.
So one cart comes along, he's like, "Oh, I'll take a drink." The other cart comes along, "Oh, I'll take a drink."
Yeah, and so he was very proud of this fact, and he was kind of rubbing in our faces. We're like, "Yeah, that's cool, dude.
Yeah, of course.
Like, awesome." But something really funny happened on this flight, and I'll never forget this. This is so good. So this was like right in the early adopting age where we just discovered that you could order a vegetarian meal on a flight. This was like groundbreaking shit at the time. And like, I think in like the late 90s, early 2000s, this was just new information for people. You would learn that you could actually like write the airline and like request a vegetarian meal. So we did.
Yeah, that was like just when the internet was up and going. So you didn't really go to the internet to register your ticket. You kind of went to like a travel agent.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and they'd print you out a ticket, and then you'd have to hang on to that for fucking ever.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
We had requested vegetarian meals, and Brandon and I get our meals. We're on the not cool side of the plane where we don't get served from both sides, And so we get our normal ass meals from some sort of curry and rice or something like that. Kyle gets his vegetarian meal and he opens it and he looks at us with this like just dejected but also mad look. And we're like, "What's going on?" And he's like, "Look at this." I'm like, "What?" And what he had was pancakes, breakfast style, like buttermilk pancakes, but they were covered in like a marinara sauce. It was like the marinara sauce that you would put on pasta. And he was so upset. And, Brandon and I are like eating we're like, "Yeah, that's weird, dude. Sorry." And he, Kyle is like, trying to get the attention of either like flight attendants on either side of the aisle that he was so proud of like dominating
Pancakes
like a couple
with
minutes
spaghetti
ago.
sauce.
And he's like, what is this? Like, what am I supposed to do with this? And then the lady's like, "Sorry, you ordered a vegetarian meal." And he's like, "Yeah, but it's pancakes with marinara sauce. Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, does this make sense to you?" And the flight attendant's like, "No, sorry, it doesn't. I mean, I guess that's what vegetarians eat." And he's like, "Well, don't you have any other meals?" And she's like, "Sorry, no, this is like all we have." And so the whole flight, he was just sitting there with his arms crossed. He's just like, "Got pancakes with marinara sauce. It's fucking stupid."
Did he eat it?
He ate like a couple bites and then he tried, but he was like so mad.
He's so picky about food, man.
Yeah.
You put anything in front of me, I'll eat it. If it's food, I don't give a fuck. It's like, whatever. It's life.
He was a very finicky eater. He was a famously finicky eater.
With the mushrooms.
Yeah, he hated
my
mushrooms.
God.
Could not stand them.
There was one. We were at this restaurant, and as he's ordering food, he says, and I don't want any mushrooms in that. And the waiter is like, "Okay." He goes, "Yeah, because if I have a mushroom, I go into anaphylactic shock if I do." And the waiter's like, "Oh, okay." Walks off, and I'm like, "What the fuck? You do not go into anaphylactic shock. What the fuck?" And he's like, "Yeah, but if I tell them that, they make sure they don't." I'm like, just because you don't like something? Jesus Christ. You're fucking giving these people a panic attack just because you have an aversion to something, I don't know. If I get something in my food and I don't like it, it's like, "Oh, shut the fuck up and eat it," But that's how I was raised anyway, You kids today, you eat nothing but fish sticks until you're 10,
I suppose we should probably preface this with maybe explaining who Kyle is, because if you've been following along in this podcast, you might have heard us reference this person multiple times in several episodes, but I think maybe a little context might help.
That's a very good point. Because we could just do the whole episode about Kyle anecdotes, but there really needs to be some hook to hang the thoughts on, so to speak, you know?
Yeah. Kyle was a dear friend of both Jack and I. I met him when I very first moved to Seattle. So he was like 16, I was 18. Jack probably met him maybe a couple years prior to that. You probably knew him since he was like 14.
I met him when he was 13.
13.
Yeah.
Kyle and I would later on to be roommates in a couple different scenarios. And also he and I played in a couple bands together. I sang in a band called Contaminated that Kyle was playing bass in. And then he later joined a band called Phalanx that I was in. And we went on some tours across the US and Europe and stuff. And, you know, it was for Jack and myself, he was a very integral person in our lives.
Yeah, probably the most important person.
Yeah.
Besides each other.
Yeah.
I mean, he is also the reason we started doing this podcast.
It's true.
And we're not going to get into the heavy shit yet. I thought the first half of the episode would be fun stuff. But when he died, we realized that we had no actual recordings of the funniest person we ever met. And that was a tragedy. So it was like, well, okay, let's do this. Maybe we told this story before, but we said, let's do this podcast and so that if either of us dies, we will have like a good solid base to sit back and listen to and feel like you're there. We have nothing like that with him, you know?
Yeah,
And
just some scraps of voicemail messages and some video stuff, but like nothing really like this, you know?
I mean, our main time with him was before cell phone cameras even, you know, so the majority of pictures we have are all hard copies, you know. I got a handful on my cell phone that people have either scanned and sent to me or stuff that I took in his later years, you know, which we'll go into at some point. But the first 2/3 of his life were just some of the funnest times, man. I mean, every time I post a picture of him on Facebook, I always use this one back and forth that we had was when he'd broken up with a certain girl, or she broke up with him, doesn't matter, but everybody at this bar we were at was going to her house for her birthday party, all of our friends. And I stayed back with Kyle because it was like, oh, fuck, you know, and it's fine, you guys all go do this. And Kyle looks at me, he's like, you're not going with them? I'm like, no, man, you know, if you're not there, it's not really going to be a fucking party, is it? You know? And he just, being around him made everything more fun. Yeah. You know? It's kind of like people who, I don't actually smoke pot, but people who do smoke pot are like, oh, but have you seen Train Spotting high on weed? You know that it's like from some stand-up comedian that says it. He was like an enhancer, you know? Yeah. It just made everything just that much cooler, you know, and funnier and more exciting. I don't know. Maybe I didn't explain it real well, but
no, I think that was pretty succinct. I think Kyle had a way of like taking a boring situation or a story that had kind of mundane, non-descriptive details about it, and he would embellish any situation he was in to make it more fun or more chaotic or crazy or silly. It's a very unique trait, and I've really never met another person that kind of had the same kind of aura about him. You know?
No, it's really hard to explain because if you've, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have had people like that in their lives as well. Sure, yeah. You know, but if you haven't, then how do you explain that to somebody? You know, how do you explain the most amazing person ever? It's a tough thing. Yeah, it really is. You know.
Yeah.
It's kind of like explaining elephants to somebody who's never seen an elephant before, you know? Yeah. I don't know where I pulled that out.
Yeah, I mean, they got a super long neck. They're covered in spots.
Yeah, but you still can't really, like, wrap your head around it, you know? It's like, okay, cool. I get the gist of it. I have all the elements that you've just explained to me, but I still can't visualize on the reality of it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm losing focus. Maybe I need to drink more of this wine.
Possible. I've had the privilege of knowing some kind of more extreme personality types similar to him in my life. It's almost like you can't really describe them without just telling stories about them.
Yeah, for real. Yeah.
Like, I think that's sort of like the way you get to the essence of somebody is like, you know, if you asked me what his personality was like, it's kind of a trick question because he had a bit of a chameleon-ish way about him where he could kind of adapt to whoever he was with and sort of have a different aspect to him. And after he passed, it was really interesting because I remember we were sitting around his mom's house. Some of his family members were there, and we were all just kind of like hanging out and trading stories. And it was so interesting because if you told a story about him, half the people were surprised.
Right.
Because they had never seen or heard or even realized this aspect about him. But then we would hear his family tell stories and we would be like, what? You know, like it was really interesting. He had this kind of, I wouldn't say deceitful, like in a malicious way.
No, he was just a complex person.
Yeah.
I think that's a better way of putting it. It's not really chameleon, but complex.
Yeah. Very complex.
You know? He could get along with anybody anywhere and figure out how to entertain them no matter who they were. And I think that was the thing is he wasn't being a chameleon. He was just figuring out the best way to entertain somebody and make whatever they were doing or whatever they were into or whatever was going on entertaining.
Yeah.
You know, no matter what. Hey, did we ever figure out how Kyle lost his teeth? Because he
there's
told me
so
many
many
different
stories. I think when I first met him, Kyle had like 2 missing gaps.
Yeah.
In kind of like the fang area.
So you had like a bridge thing that used to pop in and out.
Like a denture. And I think when I first asked him what happened to his teeth, he gave me some crazy fight story that he had gotten like jumped,
stomped by skinheads on a curb.
Yeah, something like this, you know.
And I was rallying for the cause.
Yeah, but over time, you ask him again, and the story shifts and changes. And I think he had like 100 different stories of why his teeth were missing.
Yeah, I heard many.
And then I think you had told me that like you actually heard from his mom the actual reason.
See, but when me and Mary used to hang out, his mom's name is Mary, we used to just get hammered. So it's hard for me to remember exactly. I vaguely remember that she told, I started telling her all these stories that he told me, and she just laughed her head off. She's like, yeah, that's what he does. I was like, what do you mean? She goes, yeah, because it's such a boring story, but he makes it interesting. I'm like, right. So what happened? Well, he was just born without those teeth. Or it was either that or his baby teeth fell out and then those 2 never grew back in. Or something just completely mundane like that. But Kyle can't let it go at that, you know? What happened to your teeth? You can't just go, oh, they never grew back in so much. He's going to be like, knife fight.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wow, crazy.
I was abducted by elephants when I was 5.
Yeah. Or a car I was in slammed into oncoming traffic and I flew through the windshield and did a double barrel roll across a motorcycle and busted my face out on I don't know, something you bust your face out on. A thing that busts faces.
Face buster.
The socks thing was always hilarious to me.
Oh, the socks were great.
Yeah.
This was really great. So, should I tell this or do you?
Yeah,
want to
you tell it.
Okay.
You were there for more of it.
So we had taken a trip through Europe backpacking in 2001, and the following year we came back with our band Phalanx and we did a European tour. So in between 2001 and 2003. Kyle and I were constantly on the road together. We did like a sequence of tours with Phalanx, and we were also traveling together alone and with Brandon, of course. And Kyle was very excited because he came up with this very diabolical scheme in his mind where when you travel, particularly like punk travel back then, you are really generating large amounts of very dirty, gross laundry. You're sleeping in weird fucking places. You're sweating a lot. You're going to like packed shows. It's raining and then it's hot. Like it's, you're just generating fucking dirty laundry.
And it's difficult to find the place or the time to actually do laundry.
Exactly.
So you really got to think about that ahead of time,
And so things like
how many times am I going to wear this pair of socks before
they catch fire,
right,
or develop their own sentience and run off
right
on their own accord.
So if you're on a 3-week tour and you can only pack in 6 pairs of socks, you have to wear each one 5 days in a row.
Yeah,
which is a lot.
Or cycle them out, or manage to figure out some sort of scheduled laundry time,
or the system that Kyle came up with.
Yeah, so Kyle's system was very simple. He would come with 6 pairs of socks, and as soon as the socks were used and expired and ran their course, he would throw them away. And he would then make it a point to go and try to find socks in a store somewhere and buy them, and then have like a new set to go through. So this was like his genius.
I got one better for you. On that first time, the it's me, you, Brandon, Jamie, and Kyle, the 5 of us. He brought 1 pair of socks.
1 pair of socks.
1 pair of socks. And he would wear those until they fell off, and then we would find him another pair of socks, and he would wear those, and he would throw them away. Swear, that is exactly what he did. And it was mental.
That's a terrible system.
Trying to walk, because I remember trying to find him a pair of socks in Prague, and neither of us speak any Czech, and we don't even know what a sock store might look like. But we got on this one shopping street where the cars aren't coming up and down, but with big bright lights and stuff, a lot of street performers. Like, okay, there's got to be a sock store on here somewhere. And I think we did at some point find him a pair of socks, but it was like throwing darts at the moon, trying to figure out how to do that. That's the old days of traveling. Yeah.
My God, there's so many funny stories around that trip. Anybody that knew him also knew that there was like kind of like an air of like suspiciousness or criminality about him. Like
he would walk into a store and there'd be immediately a security guard following him around no matter what, because he just gave off this air of, I just got into some shit and you gotta it's your job to figure out what the fuck I got into,
Yeah, he always was like looking left and right.
But even without that, it's just the way he carried himself. You can see like he's guilty of something.
Like we would, Brandon, Kyle, and I would roll into like a train station in Paris or something, and then Brandon and I would like look away for a couple seconds, and then we'd look back, and then all of a sudden Kyle was like flanked by like police. He just looked like he was about to get into a lot of trouble, or he was just about to escape trouble or something.
So I not the European tour, but that punk festival we went to in Portland, I remember this is exactly it as well. I was over 21 at the time, and Kyle wasn't. So he had a friend of ours ID from Seattle that he was using as a fake ID.
This is so good.
But he didn't realize that fake ID had warrants in Portland on it. So we got split up at some point during the festival, and I'm in the bar portion of the festival with this giant long window facing the sidewalk. And I'm talking to somebody, blah, 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 blah. Where the fuck is Kyle anyway? Oh, he's right there. I turn around, and there's Kyle surrounded by police. And, of course, a young punk kid, oh, you should have gone out and smashed the fucking fash, And it's like, Yeah, it's not really like that. You see one of your friends surrounded by police and you're like, man, good luck.
Yeah, I hope that goes good.
Yeah, I can't see it going well, but there ain't fuck all I can do, you know?
We're not
This is
all
just-
going to get shot today.
I mean, I love the stories about courageous people, and I'd like to think that I'm a courageous person to an extent, but when it comes to the friend of mine being surrounded by like 50 police, they weren't even beating on him or anything. Maybe if they were beating on him, I would have said, you guys should stop that if you want.
Just don't implicate me.
So anyway, he gets taken into custody because they look at his ID, they run it, and they find the warrants, and I'm not going to say the first name, but I think the last name's okay. They go, okay, Mr. Sterling, you're coming with us. Like, no, I'm Kyle Palmer. They're like, yeah, Mr. Sterling, we've heard it all before. You're coming with us.
We got you now.
So he had to like call his mom, get on the phone with them and be like, no, that's my son, Kyle Palmer. He's a jerk. He's got a fake ID. He doesn't even look like the guy in the picture. Take a second look at the guy in the picture.
He didn't really look like him. He had a shaved
Not
head
at
at the time.
all. So anyway, I don't want to run on anecdotes all night.
Should we maybe?
Let's smoke.
I think we should maybe hit a break really quick.
Okay. Because we're just about to go from anecdotes into real life stuff. Or this has all been real life, but
That's what anecdotes are too.
heavy life stuff.
Yeah,
An
yeah.
anecdote can be heavy life too.
Yeah,
We're gonna get like real heavy in a minute. Yeah. So if you want to smoke a cigarette as well, you probably should before we get back.
I would recommend it.
Okay.
Not that I recommend smoking, but
No. But if you do smoke, now's a good time.
yeah. Otherwise, get yourself a Reese's peanut butter cup or something.
Oh yeah. Okay, hang on. There we go. Back from smoking.
Back from smoking. We're back.
All right, we're back, and I'm Jack. Anyway, so Kyle had a lot going on. We talked about the funny stories about the party times, if you will. Let me just say that the party times with him. But there was a later part of his life, like the last 10 years of his life was just not really much of a party. And maybe you can explain a little bit what happened, because I think I'll fuck it up, you know.
Sure. Kyle and I were living in an apartment in Judkins Park in Seattle. This would have been 2008, 2009. And I'd recently gone through a breakup. He came in, moved into a flat that I had just moved into. And we had kind of like a idyllic, perfect roommate situation because we were like old friends, but also we had opposite schedules. So he was working night shift. Kyle, later on in his life, he got certification to be an EMT. That's emergency medical technician for our European listeners who might not know what that means. And he got a job working with the King County Detox Center. So he was working as a medical technician professional for the detox center that would treat largely, intoxicated homeless people. Kyle really had this desire and life goal of going into healthcare, his dream was to be a firefighter, but he coasted in on being an EMT.
But you got Kyle working in the drunk tank.
Yeah,
which is hilarious.
Which is amazing in itself. Because Kyle ended up in that drunk tank a couple times.
It's like having the Joker running Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, exactly. One day he kind of vanished for a couple days. And this was not unusual because Kyle was sort of a wild card. And for him to vanish for a couple days was kind of par for the course. What ended up happening was he really just started experiencing some physical discomfort and had to go to the hospital. And what ended up happening, or what was revealed to us, is that he ended up contracting an idiosyncratic neurological disorder it's a very rare condition called Devick's disease. And it's basically, if I remember correctly, your cervical spine becomes paralyzed and your body's...
Your immune system attacks your spine.
Yeah, basically your white blood cells, which are there to protect you from infection and disease, start turning against you. And Kyle became very ill over the course of the next 10 years. He struggled a lot with a very rapidly advancing neurological disorder, which at one point completely rendered him paralyzed from his chest down to his ankles, basically. And he went through a lot of surgical operations, a lot of steroid treatments, a lot of experimental stuff. You know, there weren't very many cases of Devick's disease on the books.
Yeah, it happens to like 1 in a million people.
Yeah.
Or even more rare than that.
Yeah. But the third act of Kyle's life took a very dramatic turn. It's a very difficult thing to watch somebody that you're so close with and that you love so much go through something that is inexplicable. And, you know, I called this an idiosyncratic thing because it is. You can't really trace it to, you know, something specifically that he was doing or, you know.
Right, nobody knows why somebody gets it or how or what the causes are or anything like it. Just because it's so rare, they really have not had much opportunity to study it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And actually his case is one of the cases that started making medical journals because there's not really, this is not a common thing. I'd never heard of it. He'd never heard of it. Most of his healthcare professionals probably hadn't heard of it either.
Yeah. So the medical professionals or whatever you want to call them were just throwing everything they could at him to try to stop it. And it worked to a point, but he survived as long as he could, but he was still in constant pain. So he started drinking just way more than he used to, you know. I mean, I was staying with him towards the end, and every time I came home, I would message him like, "Okay, on my way home," you know, and he'd send me a message like, "Okay, pick me up a bottle of rum at the store." Like, okay, like what? Like, oh, just give me like a half gallon of the cheapest. Like, man, that's a lie, you know. And he would drink that in a day. Just he was medicating with alcohol because of the pain. So even when he was cognizant and rational and all that, he was still 10 years just constant pain in his spinal cord, and it just was very difficult to watch and deal with. Yeah, you know. And
Kyle was someone who really had an excessive drinking habit before all of this happened. Once this happened, it also was on top of all of the meds and all of the, you know, the psychological, existential crisis that he was in of, you know, being a healthy 30-year-old, you know, young man, and
because nothing they gave him helped.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, they threw everything at him that they can. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, well, how about this? Well, how about this? Well, how about this? But the one thing that he could count on to help take away the pain was alcohol. Yeah. You know, so he was just drinking, like, you know, Hunter S. Thompson and Charles Bukowski at a bachelor party. You know what I mean?
It was extreme.
Yeah.
It was very extreme.
Absolutely extreme. But the thing was, is as you watched him do that, you couldn't really say, hey, you really shouldn't drink like that. Because he was in so much pain constantly that it's like, yeah, you have no idea what I'm going through. Shut the fuck up and let me just handle it, you know?
Yeah, there was a moment when he was in the hospital and I was going to go visit him, and he asked me to bring him some beer, and we got into a bit of a argument over it because I was really worried that if I didn't want to bring him something that was going to make him worse, particularly if he was like,
Yeah.
you know, recovering from an operation or getting ready to go into an operation or something. And he got really mad at me, and we got in this, we got into a bit of an argument about it. And this was like a really weird situation to be in, because you want to be there for your friend and you want to, you know, be supportive and stuff, but you also don't want to like do something that's going to make it worse. But really, in retrospect, looking back, you know, there was really nothing that any of us could have done or not done to help, you know, prevent what happened. You know,
that was the only thing that was helping him, you know. And Rob lived with him for the first half of those 10 years, and I lived with him for the second half. More or less, I was on and off, you know. I was traveling constantly at the time, but I was living in his basement and dealing with a lot of the later period stuff. And he got to the point where he had to give up the flat we were living in and move in with his mom. And he was kind of on the way out at that point, and just kind of drank himself out, you know? I think it was the disease, it was the drinking, it was the pain, it was all that. I think he just kind of like gave up on wanting to do life anymore, you know? And I'm not saying, some people who drink themselves to death are just fucking cowards, you know? But you have to be able to put yourself in his shoes. What would you do if 10 years, your spine was in constant pain and there was really nothing you could do about it except drink heavily and pass out?
yeah,
I don't know that I would have done anything different. And it got to the point where he drank himself to death, basically.
yeah.
You know, and I'm just gonna put that right there, because I don't think Mary would disagree with that. I really don't.
I don't think so either. Yeah, so it was in October of 2019 that Kyle passed away, and Jack and I found out. We were both over here, and
I was in Portland.
you were in Portland when it happened.
I was guest spotting in Portland at that point, you know.
I forgot.
When I lived here, I was back to the States all the time, working in the States and Berlin, you know.
Yeah. You know, since I moved to Berlin, I had many friends pass away. Some very close ones too, but the Kyle one was that was the hardest, because that was he was such an integral part of my life that dealing with loss on that level was really, really, really difficult, and also being so far away from you know, our core group in Seattle, where, you know, where Kyle was a mainstay. You know, that was really, really difficult.
Right, because when you have grief, you want to be able to share it with somebody, and when there's nobody else that can connect on that level of sharing the same memories or experiences or whatever, it's really difficult. You feel like you're in a vacuum.
Yeah,
you know.
And I think this is actually also one aspect of being an immigrant somewhere. You know, you can call it expat or immigrant or whatever you want to declinate that as, but you know, we left our home, and we're kind of having this new experience in a new place, in a new country, without kind of your, you know, your normal support system. So when you have something like this happen, or someone in your family is going through something, there's this sort of extra layer of chaos and existential dread that happens because you're so far away. Mm-hmm. And there's not really anything you can do immediately as soon as it happens, you know. So because of the timing of what happened, Kyle's family decided that they wanted to put off having any kind of memorial for him until after the holiday, which was actually pretty smart planning, but thankfully it also meant that Jack and I could make a trip to Seattle. And the timing of this was so crazy because 2 months later, we were in the pandemic. Like, Kyle's memorial was in January of 2020.
Mm-hmm. No, 2020.
2020.
Yep.
And then
the pandemic.
Like 6 weeks later or something, 7 weeks later.
March,
we were in the middle of a pandemic, and everything got shut down. So
Mary had a good foreshadowing on that, you know.
Yeah, so we helped the family organize an event with Brandon and Alan, our close friends back in Seattle, and between the four of us, we kind of helped create the structure to, organize something for Kyle's family and for the friends and relatives to come together and have a wake of sorts to celebrate his life and to share stories. And
I said, no Nick Cave.
But we snuck Nick Cave into the podcast.
I know. Kyle loved Nick Cave. I fucking hated Nick Cave. Maybe some people are going to turn it off right now. Nick Cave is a very divisive character. If you don't like him, people get mad. It's weird. So let's talk about like the things that happened to you mentally when you found out he died, because that's the interesting. This is the humanistic part of this, like what goes through your head. Because to me is one thing, but I want to hear you first before I start dominating the fucking mic. You know what I mean?
Sure. Well, you're the one who told me. You sent me a message. I think I woke up and it was like 4:30 or 5:30 in the morning my time.
Right, because I found out still on West Coast time.
Yeah, you messaged me and told me what happened, and it was weird because at very first, as soon as I found out, it was almost kind of anticlimactic at first, which is weird because I'd kind of been expecting this.
Right, for
message.
10 years.
I kind of knew this was. I knew it was on the horizon. I knew it was going to happen.
Still doesn't make it any easier though. Right?
Yeah. And then I think over the course of the next few hours, as soon as it really started processing it and hitting me at a very, very, very bad time for a couple of weeks, it was hard for me to go to work. It was hard for me to function. It was hard for me to interact with people. I think I still had to try to go to like band rehearsals and shows and show my face and, meetings, try to pretend like I was working. It was really, really difficult. And the further away it got from the actual date, the worse it got. And I think there was probably a solid month of like late October to like late November where I was just a fucking disaster. I could really barely function. I was breaking down, crying in the middle of a train. Like I left parties early. I stopped conversations mid-sentence and just walked away. Like it was really, really, really difficult. It sort of kind of started smoothing out. And I think once we started working and planning on the event, I actually had something to throw energy into. So I was able to sort of distract myself from the like crushing like dread of the situation by going into planning and organizing mode. Even though we were so far away, it was like, I started coordinating with the family and friends and trying to gather photos and video content and stuff so I could make some sort of like presentation at the event. Brandon, Alan were working on, the logistics for setting up the actual space, and creating, a timeline and an event that we could invite people to. And the four of us all just worked together quite a bit.
No, I didn't do shit. I just said no Nick Cave. But I couldn't do a damn thing, I was not functional for a solid year, I think, even after the wake, scenario. So when I got the message from Michael Mara, which was not what I expected to how that would play out, but just got a text message that said Kyle's dead. I was in Portland at a bar and I threw my phone across the street, found it later, and that was my rage, and it started from there, and it stopped, and it took a long time to stop, and I started calling it grief rage, and I'd never heard that term before, but that's what it was for me, is all I could listen to was Extreme Noise Terror and Napalm Death and anything grindy or crusty, and just mad because I was so pissed off. And people talk about the 7 stages of grief. It's like denial, acceptance, barter, and and no, I'm sorry, all that's bullshit. Everybody's different. Everybody goes through grief differently. I don't think there's a way to formalize it. I was just pissed. I was so pissed.
Why were you so angry?
Because it was my little brother. I'd known him since he was 13 and I was maybe 23. And that's the closest I will ever come to losing a child. And losing a child is the most traumatic. Apparently, I don't know this, but this is the only hat rack I can hang that hat on, is that I'm starting to get a little tripped up, so sorry if my words aren't making sense, but I was just so pissed off. Just pissed at life, pissed at Kyle, pissed at everybody, pissed at the doctors, pissed at his disease, just fucking pissed. And when that would calm down, and even sometimes when it wasn't, I would talk to him, and I'd go to the bar by my house by myself, and I would just kind of like hang out and order beers and talk to him. And I think the bartenders probably thought I was batshit fucking crazy, but I think that's where a lot of crazy, honestly, this is what goes through my head now, looking back in hindsight. I think a lot of the crazy people on the street talking to themselves, they're talking to those people that died on them, that they can't get out of that. And I got to the point where I was just losing my mind, to where I was just kind of like going into that place where you don't come back from. And honestly, Rob, I think I was almost there. And you said to me, we met up at some point, and you said, you have to stop talking to him. I said, no, that's why? We're having a great time. Fuck off. That makes no sense to me. Sometimes you just have to do that to get over it, I guess. Maybe you're like, no, it's too much. You've gone too far. You're not in reality anymore. You're just in this like completely made up world. You're making up a world where he's still alive, and you're just hanging out with him all the time. And I was, and it was. So maybe now somebody's listening going like, oh, that's one of the 7 stages of grief you just talked shit about. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever, just, you can't commodify grief. Everybody has a completely different experience. There are issues there are issues not there. But since Kyle was dead and Rob was I don't know, it's hard to explain. But Rob is the only ray of light in my life at that point, and he says to me, you have to stop talking to him. And it was like, okay, you're the one who's alive. I got to listen to you. And I did. And I kind of came back to reality. And I feel like that's why I'm still a functional adult human being at this point, 3 years on, is because I forced myself to listen to Rob, and I stopped talking to him, you know. But everybody has a different response, you know. That's why, like I keep saying, you can't codify grief. Everybody's gonna have a different response. Everybody has a different reaction, you know. For you, he was your best friend. For me, he wasn't my best friend. He was my little brother, which is different than best friend. You know, this was like somebody I raised. You know, I raised him. He was me, you know? He was, and there's no way to explain it. I mean, I wasn't his blood brother, you know, and Mary and her husband and his actual dad, they're the ones who really raised him. But I got him when he was like 13 and in that moldable phase of like everything I say, you're going to take as like gold, you know, and he was smart. He took what I said and left. Took the good parts, left the bad parts, did what he wanted. But I will never meet another person in this life that I met at 13, when they were 13, and lived an entire life with them. Yeah. You know, that will never happen to me again as long as I live. And it's just so brutal that I understood to a degree, not to 100%, but I understood to a degree what parents who lose their children go through. And it's not fun. It's not cool. And you can fucking completely lose yourself to the other side. And Rob is the one who brought me back. And kind of going out on that story, I'd like to tell this other story. It's kind of synonymous with that. It kind of goes together because there's so many different things that happen. I was listening to Rob. I was trying not to fucking talk to Kyle, but I still would and not let anybody know I was, you know, like almost like cheating on somebody, you know. It's like, okay, nobody's looking. So anyway, close the fucking door. Because I would always yell at him to close the door. Because he'd always sit there with the fucking door open, smoking. And I'd be freezing my ass off watching TV. I was like, close the fucking door. So it was almost like my catchphrase with him. So when I'd slip into it, I'd be like, oh, close the fucking door. Even if there wasn't a door around, it'd just like come out of my mouth. And then the conversation would start, you know? And it's like, oh, nobody's around to fucking see that I'm going crazy. So it's okay. You know, and I'm sitting in the kitchen at my flat listening to Astral Weeks by Van Morrison, which I'd been listening to over and over and over and over again because there's this line in it, and it's either the first song or the second song, can't remember. The first song, amazing lyrics for grief. Second song, can't remember, but anyway, there's a point where he says, take care of your boy, or something along those lines. It's been I haven't listened to it since then because I haven't wanted to, but it says something about take care of your boy. And for me, that was so crushing because as the older brother, I'm supposed to take care of my boy. But I didn't. He died on my watch. You know what I mean? It's like that. It's like I couldn't do anything. There was nothing I could do. I could not beat the shit out of this Devix disease. I could not tattoo this Devix disease. I could not, you know, make friends with this Devix disease. There's nothing I could do. So I lost him, and there's nothing I could do. And I was just sitting in the kitchen with the lights off, listening to Astral Weeks, and just crying and talking to Kyle and crying and talking to Kyle. It's just like 5 o'clock in the morning, you know. Been sitting in there probably 5 hours doing this just straight. At one point, there's a fucking touch on my shoulder and a whisper in my ear, and I freaked out. and realized it was my cat. And my cat never does anything like that, but it was sitting on this counter next to me, and for some reason put his hand on my shoulder and whispered in my ear and in my head. It wasn't necessarily Kyle. To me, it was like the spirit of the universe, whatever you want to call it. I don't necessarily believe in God. I don't necessarily not believe in God, but I believe that the universe works in mysterious ways, and that's all I got to say about that. But what I felt was the universe telling me it's okay. You know what I mean? And from there, I was able to kind of stop talking to him and kind of get back to real life, you know? And that was, I swear, I don't know how long it took after he died. It was a long time, and it was crushing. It was just like Extreme Noise Terror and Van Morrison and the Pogues, and then the fucking the Waterboys song, you know, the Fisherman song, you know. So
Fisherman's Blues.
Fisherman's Blues, yeah, over and over again. I can't listen to any of that stuff. Oh, and that song by Dead Moon, you know, It's Okay.
It's okay.
Yeah. And
whenever you listen to that song, it's definitely not okay.
No, but here was the thing. Is years later, whatever, last year, you know, this maybe 2 years later, me and Julie were going to that Dead Moon tribute night with Tootie, doing some stuff with local. She would go from town to town doing stuff with local musicians, and they would do. And each band, she would get up and do a couple Dead Moon covers with. And Julie was like, "You know what's coming." I'm like, oh, I'll be fine. I've gotten through the hard part. It's okay, you know? It's okay.
Just like in the song.
She's like, okay, if you say so. I'm like, it's fine. I'm on the other side of the dark tunnel now, or whatever you want to say. And yeah, of course they're going to play that song. And when they started playing that song, I just lost it and started just crying like fuck in the middle of a concert, you know? And yeah, I still can't listen to that song. I still can't listen to Astral Weeks. The Pogues are still difficult. Fisherman's Blues is still difficult. Anytime any of that shit comes on the radio, you still kind of lose it, you know? Not because and it's weird because it doesn't bring you back. It just... I don't know, grief is such a strange thing. And that's why I don't like the explanations of it. It's all personal. It's all individual. And it's all dependent on who you are as a person and who this person was to you.
Yeah.
And it's totally unique for everybody. I lost my mom. I lost my dad. Those were both brutal, but there's never been anything as brutal as Kyle's death to me ever. It is the one worst experience I've ever had in my life, and is probably the worst experience I ever will have, because like I said, I will never meet, I will never have that history with another person again. Life doesn't work like that. Life goes in a straight line, time does, time and life together.
Grief and nostalgia kind of have a similar role. Like, you hear something, this punk song I used to love when I was like a kid, and you hear it and it sort of like transports you back to this time, and there's sort of this warm fuzzy thing you get, and you start thinking about all of these like wonderful like memories and stuff. So like that's like the nostalgia side. Grief works in a very similar way for me. There's something that triggers the grief. It starts off as sort of like this warm, fuzzy nostalgia thing, and then it gets really dark very fast. And that Waterboy song is really hard to hear. I have Kyle's copy of the vinyl here, and sometimes I put it on, and then I instantly regret, and I'm also very thankful that I put it on, because
you still hear him singing the woohoo parts.
Yeah.
You do. And it puts him there, Yeah. So that's nostalgia. There's the nostalgia of putting somebody there, and there's the grief of just when you have this absolute grief that is just unexplainable, the closest thing I can explain is that the most empty you've ever felt in your life and walking around just as a shell, and gravity doesn't even exist at that point. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just you're walking through a gravityless, consequenceless. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I thought we could do this episode explaining grief, but I'm starting to realize that you can't explain it.
That's hard. I mean, for me, particularly when I was going through this stuff with Kyle, I felt like I was in a translucent cube, if this makes any sense.
Yeah.
I could see through it. I could see people. I could talk to them.
Like there's a whole world out there that has no idea what I'm going through.
And I could see through it.
Right.
But I was in a cube.
Yeah.
You know, and like everything that I did, I tried to eat food. I tried to
the cube is like a vacuum.
Yeah. I kind of felt like things lost taste. Like I lost my sense of taste during this time. Yeah. Like I would try to like go meet friends and go have food and like drink and stuff. And everything was just like a gray sheet over me, you know? And it took a long time. It probably took the better part of 2020 for that to go away. But then we were in the fucking pandemic.
Right.
You know, and there was like a whole new set of like existential dread to sort of like take its place. But I would say the first half of 2020 was maybe one of the most difficult paths I ever had to like carve out in my life, you know.
But that's an interesting thing with grief is that when you have other things to focus on, it helps draw your attention away from it, you know. I mean, as much as a lot of people went inside their own heads during the pandemic, not in a good way always, but for me, it gave me something to focus on.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, here's the pandemic. Here's what I got to do to get through this, you know?
Got to find toilet paper.
I didn't. Hey, okay. Pandemic stories.
Is that the next episode?
No! Or could be.
We started this project during the pandemic.
Could be. We can do pandemic. Up to you.
I think maybe it might be fun to like look back at some of the stuff that maybe we didn't talk about in real time while we were in it.
Right, because we were trying not to talk about the pandemic when we were doing the podcast.
Yeah, specifically, we really tried to avoid talking about it.
Because we didn't want to bum everybody and each other out. How about on that note, we just walk out? Better to walk before they make us run.
I would close out by saying keep tabs on the people that you're close with. Check in on them.
Yeah.
Reach out to your friends if they're struggling. Keep in mind that sometimes the people that you think aren't struggling, maybe.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get preachy or anything, but I would just say that because life is a fleeting, weird thing, and you don't really know when that chapter is going to end for people. So keep tabs on the people that you love. That's all I have to say.
But do the best you can. That's the thing. I think since Kyle had what was going on with him for such a long time and became such a shut-in, you know, and he didn't want people around him much, that a lot of people kicked themselves about not being there, you know. And I was there a lot just because I was living with him. If I wasn't, would I have been as attentive? I don't know that. You know, that's my own demon to struggle with. But I'd like to tell everybody that just do the best you can. And it's never take the blame when you've done the best you can. And if you've done the best you can, you can't take the blame.
Yeah. And or even if you didn't really do the best you could, life is going to happen regardless. And you can't assume culpability or responsibility for something that was going to happen regardless of how hard you tried to prevent it or not.
But let's go out on a high note. Hi.
We need to dehogging this off.
Yeah, I think so. We're gonna close out and go to the bar, even though it's whatever o'clock in the morning. We get served here in Berlin 24/7. All right, ciao.
Ciao.
We can edit that out!